Nobody believed him. The bookmakers had him at plus 390, a more than 6-1 underdog. The media wrote him off. The fans thought it was over before it started. Even the most optimistic Gaethje supporters quietly wondered if this was one fight too many. And then on the south lawn of the White House on June 14, 2026, Justin Gaethje did the unthinkable. He stopped Ilia Topuria. He took the zero. He became the undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world. At 37 years old, at the White House, on the biggest stage the sport has ever seen. Tonight, we tell the full story of one of the greatest upsets in UFC history. How did it happen? What does it mean? And where does MMA go from here? To understand why this result is so shocking, you need to understand where both men were coming into this fight. Ilia Topuria was 17-0. Undefeated, he had finished 3 consecutive former champions, Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira. He was the pound-for-pound number 2 fighter in the world. He was a minus 520 favorite. He was 29 years old. He was supposed to be untouchable. The narrative around Topuria entering this fight was not whether he would win. It was how fast he would finish Gaethje. He had publicly guaranteed a first-round knockout. He said Gaethje's game plan would make it easy. And Gaethje, coming in at 27-5, 37 years old, twice challenged for the undisputed title before losing to Khabib Nurmagomedov, losing to Charles Oliveira. A man whose career has been defined by incredible performances and heartbreaking shortfalls. The MMA world loved Gaethje, but almost nobody believed he could win. That is the weight of what happened on Sunday night. This was not a close fight on paper. This was a coronation for Topuria that somehow turned into Gaethje's greatest night win. Let us go through this fight round by round, because the story of how Gaethje won is as remarkable as the result itself. Gaethje came out jabbing. Stiff, consistent jabs that kept Topuria at distance. He mixed in takedown feints, something completely atypical for a man known primarily as a pure striker. The feints disrupted Topuria's rhythm. Topuria landed a hard right counter on one of Gaethje's leg kicks that got the crowd going. But Gaethje's jab was doing serious work. He was controlling the pace. Gaethje's jab bloodied Topuria's face in the first round, bloodied Ilia Topuria in round 1, the man who had not been seriously hurt in 17 professional fights. Topuria came out in round 2 with more aggression. He found his rhythm briefly and hurt Gaethje badly. The crowd at the White House erupted. This looked like the beginning of the finish that everyone predicted, but Gaethje survived. His chin, which has absorbed some of the hardest punches in lightweight history, held. He weathered the storm. He kept coming forward. The most important moment of round 2, Gaethje did not quit when he was hurt. He did not back up and try to survive. He pushed through and made it to the bell. Topuria began to fade. The jab damage from round 1 was showing. His eyes were swelling. Gaethje's pressure was relentless and it was taking a physical toll. Gaethje's uppercut became the weapon of the night. He found the range with it repeatedly in round 3, snapping Topuria's head back with shot after shot. Both men were fighting through fatigue. Topuria landed a hard right counter early in the round. There was still danger there, but Gaethje answered with a heavy right hand that badly hurt Topuria. Gaethje followed with a head kick that was partially blocked but still landed. Then a trio of shots that sent Topuria reeling into the cage. Topuria's eyes were swollen. Blood covered his face. His corner could see the damage accumulating. At the end of round 4, Topuria sat on his stool. His corner looked at him. They looked at each other, and they stopped the fight. Topuria retired on the stool between rounds 4 and 5. Justin Gaethje is the UFC lightweight champion of the world. Let us talk about what this means for Justin Gaethje's legacy, because this result fundamentally changes how he will be remembered. Before Sunday night, Gaethje was beloved. One of the most popular fighters in the history of MMA, but his legacy had a question mark. 2 title shot failures, great fighter, never the best. Now the narrative is completely rewritten. At 37 years old, an age where most fighters are winding down or already retired, Gaethje went into a fight as a 6-1 underdog and won the undisputed lightweight championship of the world. He fought at the most famous address on the planet, in front of the President of the United States, on the biggest stage the UFC has ever created. and he delivered the biggest result of his career. His jab, something he has historically not used as a primary weapon, was the tool that dismantled a man who was supposed to be unbeatable. The heart, the ability to survive round 2 when Topuria almost finished him. The mental toughness to keep pushing when the crowd, the odds, and the moment were all against him. This is the stuff of legends. Where does he rank now? The conversation has to start. Is this the greatest upset in UFC history? The greatest comeback story? The answer to both questions might be yes. The other side of this story is Ilia Topuria, and it is important that we address this fairly. Topuria retired on his stool. For many fighters, that moment would be career-defining in a negative way. The optics of quitting before the 5th round when you are the champion, when you still have a minute to potentially change the outcome, those optics are difficult. But let us look at what Topuria was dealing with. Both eyes were swollen. His face was covered in blood. He had absorbed 4 rounds of Gaethje's most intelligent, most disciplined performance in years. The jab had damaged him continuously from round 1. Topuria is still 29 years old. He is still one of the best fighters on the planet. His record now stands at 17-1, with his only loss coming to a crafty, experienced champion on the biggest night in UFC history. The question is not whether Topuria is finished. He is not. The question is what comes next. Does he go back to featherweight where the belt is now vacant? Does he pursue a rematch at lightweight? Does this loss change who he is as a fighter? The greatest test of a champion is not how they win. It is how they respond to defeat. The MMA world will be watching very closely. The co-main event delivered its own massive shock. Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane for the interim heavyweight title. Pereira was hunting history, the chance to become the first 3-division UFC champion. Gane was a slight underdog at +110. Gane came out fast in round 2. A barrage of heavy punches caught Pereira early, and the referee stepped in at 1:27 of round 2. Ciryl Gane is the interim UFC heavyweight champion. Alex Pereira's quest for 3-division history is over, for now. This result is significant for multiple reasons. Gane is now a 2-time interim heavyweight champion. He has never held the undisputed belt. His chance to unify with Tom Aspinall just got more real. Pereira, his next step is unclear. Does he stay at heavyweight? Does he return to light heavyweight? He vacated the 205-pound belt to chase this fight. The division he left behind now needs a new champion. One thing is certain, Pereira remains one of the most compelling figures in MMA. The loss does not diminish what he has accomplished. But the 3-division dream will have to wait. Here is the remarkable statistic from UFC Freedom 250. All 7 fights ended inside the distance. Every single one. Diego Lopes defeated Steve Garcia by TKO at 2:42 of round 2. Garcia was on an 8-fight win streak coming in. Lopes ended it convincingly. Bo Nickel stopped Kyle Daukaus by TKO with punches and elbows at 4:34 of round 1. The undefeated prospect continues to develop into a genuine title contender. Mauricio Ruffi finished Michael Chandler with a spectacular spinning wheel kick and follow-up punches at 4:29 of round 1. One of the highlights of the night, and further evidence that Ruffi is a legitimate danger at lightweight. Josh Hockett walked the walk. He talked all week. He backed it up in the octagon, stopping Derek Lewis by TKO at 4:09 of round 2. The college football walk-on story gets another incredible chapter. Sean O'Malley stopped Ayman Zahabi at 4:02 of round 2. Vintage Suga, fast hands, clean combinations, and another highlight for the collection. 7 fights, 7 finishes. At the White House, UFC Freedom 250 delivered on every promise it made. The morning after UFC Freedom 250, the MMA world is processing and planning simultaneously. At lightweight, Justin Gaethje is the champion. Islam Makhachev has been vocal for months about wanting a title shot. He is the clear #1 contender. A Gaethje versus Makhachev fight is the biggest lightweight bout available right now. Can Gaethje's jab-heavy, disciplined style work against the wrestling of Makhachev? That is the question everyone is asking. Topuria will want a rematch, but does he get one immediately? The UFC will have to decide whether Makhachev's case is stronger. At heavyweight, Gane holds the interim belt and wants the undisputed title. Tom Aspinall is recovering from eye surgery. When he returns, Gane versus Aspinall for the undisputed belt is the fight. Will Aspinall be ready before the end of 2026? Pereira's path forward. Does he chase the undisputed heavyweight belt, return to light heavyweight, or does he take time to regroup? And in 3 weeks, UFC 329. McGregor versus Holloway. International Fight Week in Las Vegas. The UFC just delivered the most shocking result in years. And the calendar is already full of what comes next. Here is the bottom line. Justin Gaethje shocked the world on June 14, 2026 at the White House. A 6-1 underdog, 37 years old, 3 rounds behind him of title fight failures. And he went to war with the most dominant lightweight in the world, and he won. He jabbed his way to history. He survived round 2 when it looked like it was over. He broke the champion. He earned the belt the hardest possible way. Ilia Topuria will be back. The sport is better for what he has done and what he will do. But tonight, and for a long time, this night belongs to the highlight. Justin Gaethje, UFC lightweight champion of the world he won. Tell me in the comments, where does this rank in the greatest upsets in UFC history? Is this number 1? Subscribe and hit the bell. We break down Gaethje versus Makhachev when that fight is announced.